जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यमुना तीरावनचारी यमुना तीरावनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी जय कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam 10th Canto, Chapter 11, Text number 18. Please repeat after me. Dhuli dhusharitangastvam Dhuli dhusharitangastvam Putramajjanamavaha Putramajjanamavaha Jarmaksham te adya bhavati Janmaksham te adya bhavati Viprobhyo dehiga suchihi Viprebhyo dehiga suchihi Dhuli dusharitangasthvam Putramajjanamavaha Dehiga Suchihi. Majjanamavaha Devajapavati Dehiga Suchihi. Dhuli Dusharitangastvam Putramajjanamavaha Janmaksham Te Adya Bhavati Prebhyo Dehiga Suchihi. Dhuli Dusharitangastvam Putramajjanamavaha Janmaksham Te Adya Bhavati Viprebhyo Dehiga Suchihi. Word to word translation. Please repeat after me. Dhuli Dusharita Anga Tvam. You have become covered with dust and sand all over your body. Putra, my dear son. Majjanam Avaha. You come here. Take your bath and cleanse yourself. Janma Ruksham, the auspicious star of your birth. Te, of you. Adya, today. Bhavati, it is. Viprebhyaha, unto the pure Brahmanas. Dehi, give in charity. Gaha, cows. Shuchihi, being purified. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Please repeat after me. Mother Yashoda further told Krishna, my dear son, because of playing all day, your body has become covered with dust and sand. Therefore, come back. Take your bath and cleanse yourself. Today, the moon is conjoined with the auspicious star of your birth. Therefore, be pure and give cows in charity to the Brahmanas. Purport. It is custom of Vedic culture that whenever there is any auspicious ceremony, one should give valuable cows in charity to the Brahmanas. Therefore, Mother Yashoda requested Krishna, instead of being enthusiastic in playing, now please come and be enthusiastic in charity. Yagna dana tapah karma natyajyam karyam eva tat. As advised in Bhagavad Gita 18.5, sacrifice, charity, and austerity should never be given up. Yagno danam tapaschaivam pavanani manishinam. Even if one is very much advanced in spiritual life, one should not give up these three duties. To observe one's birthday ceremony, one should do something in terms of one of these three items, yagna, dana, or tapa, or all of them together. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yenam Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Vishnuprasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Itinamine Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktaranda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. So we see here, Mother Yashoda is trying to call Krishna and Balaram back from their playing. In the few verses before this, very, very nice description is there. So Krishna and Balaram went in the morning to play with their friends, but they were so immersed in their playing that they didn't want to come back. And then first actually Mother Rohini goes to call. And she says, "Oh Krishna, oh Balarama, please come back." And they don't listen to her. And then Mother Rohini goes to Yashodamai and says, "See, only you can call them back. Because you're so affectionate to them, they will actually listen to you." And Yashodamai is coming and calling. And they're still not listening. And then Yashodamai is giving things like, saying things like, everybody is, your friends are all dressed nicely and their parents are calling them back. And then Prabhupada actually says, she was trying to, young children are competitive. So she's trying to create some competition. Your friends are going, you should also come, And then finally she says, your father is waiting for lunch. So you should come back immediately. So we see here just wonderful dealings between Mother Yashoda and Krishna and Balaram. And it is said that Mother Yashoda also said, come and you should come and drink milk from my breast. And as she was affectionately remembering them, milk was flowing from her breast. Such wonderful relationship, over here. So, finally now she's saying, today is the auspicious conjoining of your birth star with the moon. And so on this day you should perform sacrifice, charity. And so that's why, you should come back and do this. So very nicely, Srila Prabhupada is quoting this particular verse. I'll just read the verse from the Gita, 18.5. Yagna dana tapah karma na tyajyam karyam eva tat yagno danam tapaschaiva pavanani manishinam. Acts of sacrifice, charity and penance are not to be given up but should be performed. Indeed, sacrifice, charity and penance purify even the great souls. Right? The yogis should perform acts for the advancement of human society. There are many purificatory processes for advancing a human being to spiritual life. And very interestingly, Prabhupada when he's talking about yagnas, in this purport he goes into a different one. Anybody knows by any chance? I didn't expect anybody. So the marriage ceremony, for example, is considered to be one of those sacrifices. It is called Vivaha Yagna. Then he says, should a sannyasi who is in the renounced order of life and who has given up his family relations encourage the marriage ceremony? The Lord says here that any sacrifice which is meant for human welfare should never be given up. Vivaha Yagna, the marriage ceremony, is meant to regulate the human mind to become peaceful for spiritual advancement. For most men, this Vivaha Yagna should be encouraged even by persons in the renounced order of life. Sannyasis should never associate with women, but that does not mean that one who is in the lower stages of life, a young man, should not accept a wife in the marriage ceremony. All prescribed sacrifices are meant for achieving the Supreme Lord. Therefore, in the lower stages, they should not be given up. Similarly, charity is for the purification of heart. If charity is given to suitable persons, as described previously, it leads one to advanced spiritual life. Now, so interestingly, Prabhupada is bringing this angle of how Vivaha Yagna is meant to be like a sacrifice. In this modern world, everybody is trying to have instant gratification, trying to eke out some pleasure out of this material body and the senses and the mind. And all their attempts at doing that are leading to frustration, disappointment, and misery. Because the modern culture, nobody is happy. It is not that, there is some this thing. It's just pure misery, from beginning to end. Instead of, taking this marriage as an important part of one's life for purification, right? And there is a associated sacrifices, and there is some pleasure also associated with it. If you try to take pleasure without doing the sacrifices, what happens? You're considered a thief, because you're stealing. And anybody who's stealing will ultimately have to pay the price for it, right? Nobody goes scot-free. So here, Srila Prabhupada is talking about how sacrifice, dana, charity, and tapa, austerity, are important for everybody. And in other places, Srila Prabhupada talks about Pancha Mahayagna. Right? So, what are the Pancha Mahayagna? Anybody remembers? Huh? What is the first one? Veda? Deva Yagna. Yeah, one of them is Deva, but what do you do for the Devas? Because these are basically the Mahayagnas are connected to the runas that we have. One of the runa we have is to the Devas. So Homa, a sacrifice, is described for the Deva Yagna, Deva runa. What else? Forefathers, yes. So what is the runa for the forefathers, and what is the yagna for that? Tarpan. Yeah, tarpan means which is offering oblations to the forefathers. Yep. What else? Yeah, patha. So basically, we have obligations to all the sages and saints, right? And so, patha, reading, reciting the Vedic things are meant as a sacrifice. So we did patha, homa, bhuta, all the living entities. So what are you supposed to do for that? It's actually said to be bali. You're offering, a share of the food to the living entities, right? What is this thing? It's called bali only, this thing. So, there is the other one, which is our runas too. So, Brahma Yagna, Deva Yagna, Pitru Yagna, Bhuta Yagna. Oh, see, the Bhuta Yagna and Nur Yagna. So, basically, the Bhuta Yagna is meant for other living entities. And Nar Yagna, which is for human beings, other living entities, other human beings. What is the yagna for that? Atithya, Atithi, Atithi Seva, Atithi Pujanam. We say Atithi Devo Bhava, right? Now there is a Krishna conscious way of doing all of these things. Srila Prabhupada, very nicely in this thing, right? Pata Yagna is very easy, right? We just read, every day read Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and by doing that automatically. Homa, offering these things. We say, no, you just perform Sankirta Yagna, and Sankirta Yagna is for Kali Yuga especially, Yagna is Sankirtane Praya Yajantihi Sumedasaha. Right? It is the perfection of all yagnas, the sacrifices. And so how do you do Atithi Seva? Yes. Not only coming to a temple, you can call us home also. Call Vaishnavas home and feed nicely and this thing. And it is a mutually very pleasurable, this thing, right? It's a exchange of loving, relationships and all that. And one should actually create time and spend time for this. If you read what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was doing in Jagannath Puri, right? What was the big preaching that was going on? It's not that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was just sitting and giving class after class and this thing. Right? If you go see, now it's mostly like devotees were all calling them home programs and mainly feasting. Right? There was a whole calendar that Swarup Damodar was maintaining. Where was that? Recently there was a discussion of how Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya calls Chaitanya Mahaprabhu home. And there is a negotiation happening. First Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya says, you should come for 30 days. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, hey, what is this? How can I come for 30 days? No, I'll come for 1 day. And then he says, no, 1 day, how is it possible? And then Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya brings it down to 20 days. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, no, I'll come for 2 days. And then Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya brings it down to 10 days. And then finally they settle at 5 days. Such a wonderful dealings between the Lord and his devotees. He's like, and Prabhupada very nicely explains how, there is you begin with something that is impossible, so then they will negotiate down to something that is possible. And such a, this thing. So, this is, we see, every living entity requires this thing, yuktahara viharascha. Vihara is needed. We need to have recreation, right? And then, like these kind of things are great recreation because the children will come, they will go play with their friends and this thing, they are happy, right? We are happy, we don't have to take care of the children, right? And then when Vaishnavas get together, maybe do like a potluck, somebody brings prasadam or this thing and you sit and talk and, and this and, right? The whole idea is that how by simple mutual dealings among Vaishnavas, these kind of things gives a lot of joy and this thing. And Tarpana, offering to the forefathers. He said that by our becoming Krishna conscious, by our becoming serious, 14 generations can be liberated. So that is the highest Tarpana you can give, by becoming serious in your spiritual life and by offering them prasadam, on their when somebody is departed on their different anniversaries, right? And Bali. So what is the right way to do Bali? Loudspeaker. No, but actually, Prabhupada in this purport is explained that by distributing prasadam profusely, anyway you're supposed to give a share of your food, right? Like, a grostha is supposed to go out before eating any meal. A grostha is supposed to go out of your doorstep and says, hey, is there anybody who's hungry? And if somebody says yes, you're supposed to invite them. And then you're supposed to give food, like in the old tradition. If you remember, whenever cooking happens, right, people used to go keep a little bit out for the animal, for the cows. They used to give one chapati and these kind of things. It was all part of our tradition. Slowly over time, it is all getting eroded. But we can practice in the proper Krishna conscious way by profusely distributing prasadam, like as much as possible, collectively, individually. Then we can do that. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, when it comes to sacrifices, there's a very wonderful pastime between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Chand Kazi. Right? When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Navadvipa started the Sankirtana Yagna, it was actually even very unique even for that age, because nobody had done that before. And here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was saying, all of you go out and sing and publicly sing and chant and do kirtan, right? And this was very disturbing to the Brahmanas, caste Brahmanas. What is this going on? They are just making a cheap thing out of all of this. Instead of doing elaborate worship at home, what is this cheaply singing and all that, like that? And they actually went and complained to the Qazi. And the Qazi was anyway a Muslim. He's like, hey, what is all this? Hindus are suddenly becoming, very open. Like earlier they used to just silently do on their own. Now they are openly, publicly they're doing all this. And he sent somebody to stop it, and they broke the mridanga. So that night, when the Qazi was sleeping, he had a dream, actually like a nightmare. A fierce lion, right, was growling at him, and then it jumped on his chest and scratched him like this. And it was actually, the lion was breathing fire kind of a thing, and he got frightened and he woke up. When he wakes up, he sees he's got scratch marks on his chest, and his beard would have been singed by the fire. And then he was shaken up and he was wondering what is going on, right? And then it was actually Narsimhadeva, and he says, if you one more time disturb the kirtan, you break the mridanga, you have to face me, right? And Chand Kazi was already shaken up. And that day night, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also takes out a peaceful protest, right? Civil disobedience movement. And everybody just carries a torchlight. They're not doing anything. They're not doing slogans. They're just carrying a torchlight and doing kirtan and going to his house. And there is a very nice, even then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, lakhs of people have come. No, he is not taking a confrontational attitude with the Chand Kazi. He is, nicely telling him, what is this, why are you stopping this? It's all for the good. And then Chand Kaji at that time actually shares this dream that he had and explains and all this, and then he surrenders and falls at the feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he declares that in all of his lands, nobody should stop Sankirtan, and they should encourage it. And not only him, for all his next generations, he gave this command. And it was being followed for hundreds of years after that as well. That open Sankirtan was being done in a Muslim ruled place, and there was no stopping of that. Right? And so Srila Prabhupada transplanted this. Can you imagine in the Western world over here? Prabhupada started this Nagar Sankirtan. Right? One of the best places to see this is in London, downtown London, in Soho Street. That Soho Street that area is a little bit more for nightlife and pubs and this and things like that. The busy business district. Right? But then you suddenly go in the evening, even to this day, every day in the evening, there's a park in front of the temple. So they come out and they go a procession around the whole park, and then they go back. This thing. Such a wonderful thing, that. And then everybody joins and this, and even just common people also, they'll just join like that. So very wonderful. So that is the yajna that is prescribed. And then dhana, charity. In this case, very nicely, Srila Prabhupada is talking about the sacrifice of Rupa Goswami's sacrifice. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela 19.7. Brahmana Vaishnave Dila Tara Ardha Dhane Eka Chauti Dana Dila Kutumba Bharane. Right? Brahmana and Vaishnava Dila Ardha Dhane. He gave 50% for the service of the Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas. Eka Chauti, 1/4 Dila Kutumba Bharane, for the maintenance of the family. And then he kept the remaining quarter for emergencies. And Prabhupada talks about how this is the standard that householders should follow. Right? And then Prabhupada talks about that as the main standard for dhana, charity. So charity should be given to qualified people. Charity that is not given to a qualified person can lead to, even though it is charity, it can lead to reactions. If you indiscriminately just go give some money to a beggar, and the beggar goes and does any sinful activities from that, you get a reaction for it. That is why, in the Vaishnava tradition, yes, we'll give you, distribute you prasadam as much as you want, take. Right? We'll give you that in charity. And we'll give you spiritual knowledge. Because how many, see the whole hunger and this and people suffering in this world, it's all a result of their of the entire societies and their individual papa karma. And then so there is reactions of that. And so by purifying a person, by giving them Krishna consciousness, you are giving them permanent liberation from this problem, not temporary solution. Right? And then when it comes to tapa, austerities. So what does Prabhupada say are austerities we should follow? Okay, Ekadashi. Prabhupada gives a little bit more simpler. Prabhupada says, following the 4 regulative principles and chanting 16 rounds every day is the first austerity all of us can follow. Principle austerity. Now, this um, chanting, especially, like we said, getting up in the morning, Brahma Muhurta, and chanting and hearing attentively. Because each of these things, there is a level of perfection you can reach. Right? First, shifting to a morning sadhana program, for many, it's a difficult thing. Right? You get nice sleep in the morning. Especially weekend mornings. And I think nobody is awake at 5 o'clock in the morning. In fact, it is said that when thieves are planning for attack, like to rob a place, they will choose around 5 o'clock in the morning. Because that time nobody is awake. And so devotees are protected in that sense also. Because we are all awake at that time. And so that is one of the austerities, austerity of chanting nicely. So you just imagine all these austerities also, like Prabhupada also says, regulative principles of, what does it say then? Regulative principles of freedom. Right? Think about this. Regulative principles of freedom. It is, you get freed by following the regulation. You will get full freedom to do what you want. And when you have freedom to do what you want, you will get up in the morning by yourself and say, this is the most enjoyable thing for me. What else will I do in the morning? Right? So it takes time to get to that. So in each of these regulative principles, one has to find more and more advanced means of practicing it and following it properly. Because if one is lax, because you see, sometimes people only think, grossly I won't break this principle. But there is a whole gradation. Every single regulative principle, there is a gradation. Right? Now, when it says no meat eating, right, in its simplest sense, okay, no eating meat. But what are some gradations of this principle of no meat eating? What is higher, as you go higher and higher, what does it mean for devotees in our lives? Yeah, ahimsa, right? Not compassion, not hurting other living entities. So what does it mean practically for devotees? How do you practice this? Right? You see, this, you can, now, what did they say? There's an English saying, now, what is it? The words cut deeper than a sword or something like that. Right? By practicing proper austerities of speech, by being very, how can we, anudvegakaram, how can our speech not create udvegakaram, right? Abrasive, these things. How can we be compassionate with these things, with others? So practicing compassion, practicing this, there are higher and higher levels of practicing no meat eating as well, right? And so when we do that, you see the Lord immediately reciprocates, the whole reciprocates, and that's how the system is made in this world. So no meat eating. Then no intoxication. So one is don't drink. What else? What are the first subtle forms of more refined means of practicing no intoxication? Yeah, because that is also digital intoxication. Huh? And the digital intoxication, by the way, is as bad as physical intoxication. Like, there is no difference at all. Right? You see, there are when physically if you are drunk, especially you'll see this in India, right? There'll be people lying on the streets, right? They'll be vomiting over there and this thing, they'll be lying on the edge of the sea. They'll be drunk like that. There is no difference, you'll see now, they're like this, they're drunk, lying on the side of the street, right? No control over anything, they're just lying like this. It is a reality, people are, and they're suffering because of that, just like a drunkard suffers. Because what does a drunkard, he cannot maintain a job, he cannot do anything. When you subject yourself to digital intoxication, your ability to do anything meaningful in life is gone. You can't do any hard work. As soon as you drink, first thing that goes is discipline goes. Your ability to do any level of tapasya goes away. Right? And so you're living meaningless lives, just like a living dead, they say, right? Like that. So one should be careful. Such a precious body, and especially if you take initiation, you have decided to dedicate your body, mind, soul, words to the spiritual master. And how can you misuse this body, the mind, right? And waste away. And the funny thing is this, the enjoyment one can get when you properly engage it nicely in service, and the pleasure that comes out of, that thing is so many times more than the silly pleasure of this digital intoxication. At that moment it feels a little bit like, but then there's so much of pain and suffering associated with it. Such a waste of human life. Sometimes when you sit back and think, how many cricket matches you have watched, how many movies you have watched, how many serials you have watched, and this thing, add up all those hours. My God. That too, those hours are the free hours you will let after working and everything and all those, this thing, only few precious hours, that you're wasting away on useless things. Now, in fact, there's a lot of talk about this, like for example, most of us, I'm sure most of us, have zero interest in sports. Right? Anybody here have interest in sports? They can do whatever sports they want. We don't even know what they're playing, what they're doing, who is doing what, but the whole society is like, geared up around this. So like this, there are very important ways to follow this at subtler levels. No illicit sex is also an important thing. One has to understand it's not only just gross sex. It's about having proper consciousness of how to, treat with this very fundamental thing that exists in this world. It will not go away. It is a fundamental principle. This is the male-female thing is way this world is designed to keep you in jail. Unless you learn how to properly deal with it, then there is you will not be able to advance properly in spiritual life. Right? And no gambling as well. Okay, I think the time is up. We'll stop here. Grantrat Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jai Srila Prabhupada ki, Bol Premanande.